Hey, my name is McKay Caston with Cross-Tethered Preaching, and the aim of our ministry is to help pastors like you preach with maximum redemptive impact by moving from preaching grace as merely a fallback for failure to grace as the fuel for new life. That is my passion, and I want to help you make this discovery yourself. Maybe you've been preaching the gospel, but not having the impact that you expected. That's where I want cross-tethered preaching to come in and take that grace impact to a new depth. So, what we're going to do today is talk about how to give your sermon the gift of midweek marinade. And I think it's going to be really, really fun. It's going to be informative, practical. Ultimately, I want it to be helpful for you. It's been helpful for me because I have a confession. For almost 30 years of weekly preaching, I would still be up past midnight on Saturday, finishing my message for Sunday. And inevitably, even though I had been working on my sermon all week, it was like concrete that just hadn't set. And inevitably, on Sunday afternoon or Monday, there would be things that I would say, oh, why didn't I say that? Or why did I say it that way? Or why didn't I think of that before? Now, we're going to have those times when after we preach, there's something we wish we had said differently or had thought of before. But the midweek marinade is going to deal with that in a really helpful way. Not to mention that all week long, I was working on this sermon. I didn't wait till late in the week. I worked on it almost every single day. And my day off was on Friday. And because it was still lingering and not finished, I was mentally still working on the manuscript, even though it was a day off, and sneaking away to my study to write something or look something up. I never had a full day off. So if you can relate to this at all, then you might want to consider this radical step. And the radical step that I chose was to say, I'm going to have my Sunday sermon ready by Wednesday afternoon. If I could pull this off, there'd be huge benefits. I mean, they're obvious, right? If you have a steak or chicken or shrimp and you go to a really nice restaurant, they will probably have marinated that to absorb some flavor into it so that when you consume that meal, it is really, really flavorful. Well, if a steak is better with marinade, so is a sermon. This gives it time to have those thoughts and reflections that you would have had after you preached it take place before you preach it. Because if I'm finishing my message on Saturday night, there's no marinade time. But if I have it finished on Wednesday, then without having to focus on it, they're just going to be ideas that trickle and that marinate and that soak. And it is going to make the sermon so much better. But it's not just the sermon, it's for myself that if I can finish on Wednesday, I will have so much more bandwidth for meetings, for pastoral connections, and without the sermon stress hanging over everything and making me feel pressure that, I can't do these things because I still have to work on my sermon. I also have time for real life, for running errands, for doing yard work, and maybe most importantly, for having a real day off. But how do we do this? That's the big question. How do we have it done by Wednesday? And you just need three things. Three things. One, you need a sermon prep system. And I'm going to show you here the system that we've created. Here's the 4-in-1 sermon prep template. So you have the exegesis guide, the sermon builder, the sermon application grid, as well as a sermon series planner. So I'm going to just show you real quickly. This is the exegesis guide where we ask exegesis questions of our principle, our PPGR model. We have 4 sections, 4 movements. And so the exegesis guide is designed to really help maximize our time in the text. So we're trying to discover the main ideas in the text, then our problem questions. We want to identify and discover the heart issues in the text. All these questions will help with that. We then want to discover how Jesus is revealed as the hero through substitution in the text. And then finally, response questions. Here's our application where we're going to discover the practical grace implications of living in union with Jesus as we contrast the old way of the law of flesh with the new way of the gospel and spirit. So a lot of questions. This will maximize and really make our exegesis time super efficient so that we can leverage this to then building out our storyboard. Here's the sermon builder. You have a keyword, anchor illustration, your PPGR statements, principle, problem, gospel response. Once we have this done, then we're ready to really get into the sermon and fill it out. Over here, we have the principles we're going to be working on. And then over here, the prompts for filling in the message. That's our prelectio. We've got the principle, same thing here. Here's how you develop it. Here's some prompts for developing it to help you write it out. Identifying a problem. Again, we have the steps and we have the prompts. And guess what? With the response, with the gospel, the steps and the prompts, the same thing with the response. It's a 4-step process, and we have the prompts here. This is all part of the PPGR complete preaching system. If you're interested in this, you'll get all these templates. And then there's the sermon application grid, and there's more. So the first thing we need is a sermon prep system. And I've created that for you. You may have your own you've designed. That's great. But if you need one that is really effective, then you're welcome to these templates and to this entire system. You secondly need, though, a sermon prep schedule. You need to identify focused time, sacred time that you set apart, no distractions. But how do you do that? And how much time? That's where number 3, you need to practice the focused 4 3 times. The focused 4 3 times. That's it. Which means you'll have 3 blocks of 4 hours to prep your sermon. I first came across the concept of the focus 4 by reading Oliver Berkman. And he says that the people in the world who have had the greatest impact are those not who work 10, 12, 14 hours a day, but who focused for 4 hours a day. And they got more done in 4 hours than they would have done in 12 hours because they were committed to having no distractions, nothing at all. And so, again, we can't be distracted. We can't have email. We can't be surfing the web. We can't have to focus these hours and give ourselves to them. Now, do they have to be 4 in a row? No, you can do 2 hours, take a break, 2 hours, but focused 4, 3 blocks of that. And you could do 1 block on Monday, 1 block on Tuesday, 1 block on Wednesday. You could decide, is it morning, afternoon better for you? Is it 10 to 2 better for you? It doesn't matter, except that you are in your most focused, productive mental zone is what we want to go for. Okay. Now, the 3 times, here's what you do specifically on those 3 blocks. First, day 1, exposition and the storyboard with the PPGR template. Exposition and the storyboard. Day 2, fill in the sermon builder template. You have the steps and you have the prompts. It's all there for you. So fill in the sermon builder on day 2. Day 3, you're going to review and revise. Review and revise. Now, it's built for 12 hours total, but once you get used to this, you're not going to need that long. You have that just in case. But you're going to find that your sermon prep is way more efficient than it was before. And I think it'll be way more effective than it was before also. You can learn all you want about this at resources.crosstetheredpreaching.com. That'll tell you my story about how I came to discover these things and how other pastors are having their ministries transformed by them, and how that's the experience that I want you to have as well. So if this model is something that could help, if these templates could help, then just check out the full system, resources.crosstetheredpreaching.com. And what you'll discover is that a sermon with this system doesn't need to create 3 mini sermons within each message. You don't need to start each sermon with a blank page. You don't need to generate multiple illustrations for every sermon. You don't need to overstudy, spending hours and hours reading 10 to 12 commentaries. Commentaries have their place for helping us solve sticky theological issues and confirming our own study. But I want you to be doing more of your own work in the text than going too soon to the commentaries and just preaching what they have been saying. And you don't need to be stressed all week or up late Saturday night. We have actually a process whereby you can reduce the stress, be efficient, have it done, let it marinate, and be better on Sunday than it ever would have been. This is taking into account, however, recognizing that the Holy Spirit is the active, most important agent in this whole process. All we do is stack logs. We stack the logs of a sermon, but the Holy Spirit must bring the fire. We have a whole other teaching on all of that, but I want to be sure that we know this is not just a system. This is a system to help us stack the logs in a way that we have set them up for maximum redemptive impact. So all you have to do with this model really is identify a key word for expository focus and homiletical clarity, clarify the four movements we described a little bit earlier, build a relevance bridge that shows the listeners how the same issues the original recipients face that we face, drop an anchor illustration to give the sermon cohesion, fill the gospel gap between exposition and application, then explore the possibilities of living the new way of the gospel and spirit versus the old way of the law and flesh. So, there's so much more. It's not as complicated. It is simple. Once you get into the system, I will walk you video instruction, step by step. There is personal live coaching every week. So if you think this may be helpful, resources.crosstetheredpreaching.com. And man, I would absolutely love to work with you, helping you maximize the redemptive impact of your preaching. My name is McKay Caston. Thanks for sticking around. I look forward to seeing you next time.